Hello and welcome back to the Red Shoe Lounge. Good evening, Mara.
Hello, hello. So good to see you and hear you again.
I feel like you've been in my lounge like every day for the last month.
Well, then I guess we're titled the right thing, aren't we?
Absolutely. So welcome back. This is the last episode for January, which feels a little bit weird. So you're going to be listening to this on the 25th of January. And what Mara and I really want to talk to you about today is like what happens, what do you want to do, or what are you going to do when you want to quit? Because right now we're getting to the end of January, so the statistics tell us that most people are really getting ready to give up. 80% of you will have given up by the second week in February. So we want to nip it in the bud now and find a way to help you feel more inspired to continue on whatever resolutions or new decisions, new dreams that you made for January. And we were just discussing this before we came on to record. And Mara, we were just talking about like how we know we've not what makes us kind of decide that we've failed already. So we said like we haven't lost the weight.
We aren't millionaires yet. We don't have six figures in our checking account. Our kids aren't perfect. We just want to throw in the fucking towel, right?
We do. Yeah, we haven't got the Hollywood movie lifestyle. We don't look like Jen and Brad. We're not having copious amounts of sex on a regular basis.
Well, you might not be.
Oh, listen, don't make me go all like Monica out of Friends on you when she has a competition with whoever it was. Phoebe. But anyway, that's another session.
I'm totally kidding. Anybody who knows me knows I am.
See, she's trying to put a cat amongst the pigeons. So let's get to the nitty gritty. It's dark wherever, unless you're in Australia, I'm guessing. But over here, I don't know about you, but it's dark in the mornings. It's freaking cold. It's miserable and it's raining, and it's not the best time in the calendar to be doing resolutions. So it kind of sucks that this time of year. And I think there are lots of reasons why people do kind of quit, and I'd like to open up the conversation about a few of those. But what do you think, like being somebody that in the past has continually quit and then started again, right? What can you see has been the difference for you in committing this time? I mean, obviously this many months down the line, you can now really see the tangible changes.
Absolutely. So I, just speaking from my own personal experience, I have given up on a gazillion things a gazillion times, just using workouts as an example, maybe. I have tried and quit and tried and quit and tried to quit a million times. Anything that I have in the past decided I'm going to do this and I'm going to stick to it and I'm not going to quit this time. And then all of a sudden you fall off the wagon. Then you're so hard on yourself. So I decided that all I got to do is just pick up my big girl panties and start over. It's not the end of the world. It's not the worst thing to fall off the wagon, quote unquote. It's not the worst thing to decide that you failed for the day. You failed for the day, or you failed for that hour or that week or that month. That doesn't mean you failed in life. That doesn't mean you failed at everything.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Right?
I mean, because there is a huge culture of, I want to use a really posh word, but I can't think of one. But like, but just like bitching on yourself, right? You're so useless. You're always going to be fat. I've been a bigger person. I know you have as well.
Yes.
And I think that once you've been in that mindset, that's a super, super destructive mindset to be in. And we're placing it. I think the problem is we're placing our worth on a lot of these indicators. So an indicator of our worth is what we look like. An indicator of our worth is how much we earn. An indicator of our worth is like how supportive our husband is, or what job we've got, or what street we live in, or what car we drive.
Right. And if we haven't achieved these goals for ourselves, then we must be shit.
Yeah.
Or if we haven't done XYZ, or like we must be horrible, or like you mentioned, not have worth.
And I think something that I noticed, I was talking to my coach last week and I had one of those, I kind of knew that, but I kind of hadn't really owned it. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a little bit of a rebel. I don't like being told what to do. rather stubborn, but all in good ways. But what I realised was that when I felt that I was being really focused in one area, so if I was being really productive in my business, then I justified my lack of exercise, or I justified the lack of attention to my nutrition, or I justified the 2 large glasses of wine every night because I'd worked so hard. And conversely, if I was really throwing myself into my physical and mental health and well-being, then it was like, right, well, fuck you, business. I'm going to put you to one side because you're the thing stressing me out. And it's only really since doing the high performance coaching that I've realised that I just needed a different approach. I needed a framework that allowed me to move forward in each of these areas, but without overwhelm. And I think that feeds into what a lot of people, what we discussed before, was it for a lot of people that one of the reasons, and we're going to talk about quite a few reasons, but one of them is that people don't have a plan, right?
Right.
So I think if your New Year's resolution was a slimming, losing weight or whatever, a lot of people will go either buy one of these, you know, do this program and it'll all fall off. And you don't have to do a thing, right? You can still eat shit. You can still eat tubs of ice cream and you will lose weight. Or they will join maybe like a slimming club, right? This, along with 90% of the female population on January 1st. But
I've done it for a week. I mean, I'm not skinny yet.
I know, but you know what happened was, right, because I've got this goal for Arizona, and I mean, and I want to just kind of let other people know, I'm a qualified personal trainer and fat loss nutritionist, right? And I need accountability in my fitness goals to somebody, because it's not something that I enjoy it, but it's one of the things that could easily kind of disappear. So I think it's important to say that it doesn't matter what you're qualified in, we all need a coach in some way to help us really kind of decide what's important to us. But I did mention to my sister about joining the particular slimming club that she's at, and my husband was like, no,
because he doesn't think you're going to do it, or
no, because he thinks, oh, he said last time you went, you turned into a miserable bitch, and you're not going to go and do that to me again.
But you're not the same person you were last year. Doesn't he know that?
And again, it comes down to not being told what to do, but from a space of knowing that I need to do it. And I think this is where we need to get you guys into that space of like, and we'll talk about raising necessity in a minute.
Right.
A lot of people,
you know, the whole idea for me about, you know, not wanting to throw in the towel, not wanting to give up. I mean, I think it's okay to from time to time just curl up in a ball, go have a good cry about whatever it is you need to have a good cry about. And then, like I mentioned already, pick up your big girl panties and get to business and get it done. Yeah. And you need to have a plan. And you mentioned accountability partner. I mean, we all tend to know what we need to do for the most part, but just doing it, just doing it, scheduling it in our lives, making sure we get it done. Don't procrastinate, which is one of my biggest, what do you call, like a fault, I guess you would say, is procrastination. Oh, I'll get to it in 10 minutes. Just let me finish doing what I'm doing. Oh, I'll get to it in a few minutes. Just let me, and then all of a sudden a few minutes has turned into hours, and then it's the end of the day and crap, I didn't do that thing I needed to do, or, you know, work out, or read, or meditate, or make that phone call, or pay that bill. And, you know, all of a sudden it's,
I mean, I think just going back to the accountability partners as well, you know, you need an accountability partner who, number one, is really vested and interested in your success as well as their own. So in the past, so I've got a twin sister, and she lives just 5 doors down the road from me. And in the past, when we have attempted to do kind of like a weight loss thing together or a fitness thing together, it'd get to like a Thursday night, and she'd send me a text and she'd say, oh, I fancy a wine glass emoji. And I'm being like, oh, well, one won't hurt. And then that turns into one bottle. And then that'll be Friday night, and then Saturday night. And we'll be like, oh, we'll start again on Monday. And so whilst we both wanted it, we were equally so, we were both kind of really encouraging each other to misbehave, because it allowed us to justify our behaviour. Whereas if we'd had the courage to say, look, I know I really want that, but let me think about why I'm doing this, you know. So I think Mara and I would definitely advocate finding somebody that is and you don't even actually necessarily be doing the same thing, right? Somebody might want to improve something and you might want to improve something else, but you can still have that level of check-in. And one of the high performance habits that we talk about is having a friend, a colleague, somebody that kind of gets you, and having like a little meeting with them on either a Monday morning or a Friday afternoon or whatever, just a 30-minute check-in, say, how was your week? Where did you show up? What do you need help with? Can I support you in any other way? And just that level, you know, if you can't afford coaching, then having somebody to give you a boost or ask you some challenging questions, right? Because if you say, well, you know what, I just couldn't walk past that Snickers bar.
It jumped right out at me, that Snickers bar.
Jumped out at me Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? And then this accountability partner might be able to say, okay, so how could that be improved next week? And it might be, you know what, I only have half a Snicker bar.
Right, right. I would also like to mention that, since you brought up Snickers bars, that you can't beat yourself up either if you happen to have a flippin' Snickers bar, you know, and you know that the Snickers bar is not going to help you reach the goal that you want to achieve. Like, again, pick up your big girl panties and go, all right, like you just said, why am I doing that? What is the trigger behind picking up the Snickers bar? And what can I do instead? Can I reach out to my accountability partner? Can I grab, I don't know, something just as delicious, but not as harmful?
Oh, come on, Mara. You can't have like an avocado salad and it tastes like a Snickers bar, can you? I mean,
I'm definitely not going to have an avocado salad anyway, blech. But
I love avocado.
I can, for me, I mean, I think it's different for everybody, right? You might love an avocado salad, but not me. Maybe it's a handful of almonds. Maybe it's, I don't know. I can't think of anything else because that would be my go-to.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. So what I want to talk to you about there is there's a really simple strategy that we use in NLP that we would be using like eye movements with our clients. But when I've not been able to do that, I'll often say to them, okay, so let's talk about like what strategy is creating that. And it might, like you said, what you said there about the trigger. So every time I feel stressed, I find myself immediately going to the fridge, right? As an example.
Which is me. Is me. That's been me in the past. Yeah.
I've never really been a comfort eater. I've always been a comfort wine drinker, which is a challenge as well, because for me, it does give you a real sort of feeling of being disconnected from the thing that you're struggling to deal with, right? But getting back to the strategy. So let's just say, for instance, you find yourself at the fridge, and normally what you do, you'd scan the fridge and you hone in on that one food group, and you go and now you're tasting it. So you see it, you taste it, I'm eating it. Well, you can install a new strategy there by saying, okay, I'm seeing it and I'm tasting it in my mouth, but are there a couple of questions that I can put in before I go do that? So as an example, can I have something else? Or how am I going to feel in 15 minutes if I eat that now? Or let me get a picture in my head about what I'm going to look like if I keep this behavior up, and what am I going to look like in like another 12 months? Just something to break the pattern, interrupting the pattern of habitual behavior.
Ladies, that works. Those last two I've done. How am I going to feel after I eat it?
Yeah.
And I need to get a visual. What am I going to look like in 6 months if I eat it or don't eat it? Like,
I think something else that maybe is a bit more challenging, but that we need to have a look at, because it is so easy to go, oh, fuck it, you know what, I'll worry about that tomorrow, or I'll just eat apples tomorrow, or whatever. It's like,
I'll be on a cabbage soup diet tomorrow.
We've got a comedian over here, and he's from up north, and he goes, he talks about his friend Kimberly, and she lost 14 stone in a day, right? And that's what, and he walks around and he's got this kind of like really skinny face going on. But just to change the subject, it's really about what will I value about myself if I make a better decision.
Right. And we've been talking about weight loss, but that goes with everything.
Yeah. So
about everything, about spending money.
Yeah.
You know, in a relationship, everything.
I think we are definitely going to be delving much deeper into relationships later on in the series, but it's coming up day after day after day for me. And so when it's really easy for us when we're tired, or you know, like our energy is fragmented, like for people that have got young kids and you're trying to cook dinner and your husband comes in and the kids want homework. Like I haven't had to deal with that for a long time, but there is this fragmentation of energy, and we sort of feel like we're being pulled in so many directions, and in that moment you swear at your kids, or you say, I don't have time for you right now. And particularly if these kids are small, like I want to tell you that we are creating our children's belief systems by what we say and how we behave around them. So again, in that moment, what would I be honoring about the relationship with my children if I just buttoned my mouth? I went outside and took 10 deep breaths and then come back in. So again, this comes into what am I valuing about my body, what am I valuing about my relationships, what am I valuing about my personal growth. And it's a challenge when we've come so many years into our life, we've never really thought about what we value. We've never really thought about who we are as a creation. We just feel like we've been plopped on this earth. We might have popped a couple of kids out. We've got married.
maybe more than once.
Maybe more than once, yeah. I didn't realise that I could consciously create. What does that even mean? And it coming to realise what is important to you and what's really valuable. And I mean, anybody that's done Brennan's transformation week that we talked about last week, I've been talking to all my clients about that this week. And those questions and that first worksheet are just phenomenal to get you looking at your mission and your spirit and how you show up as a lover or a partner and a parent. It's just immense. So hopefully you've all had a chance to kind of have a look at that. So in that first instance, we've talked about getting accountability and getting a plan. So if you're going to go to a gym and you can't afford, say, to get a PT, there are a gazillion things on YouTube, but for God's sake, please make sure these people are qualified trainers, and so you don't end up with a hernia or a.
That's my problem. I don't want a hernia.
Yeah, I just can't go to the gym.
Kidding.
I just need to eat Snickers bars. And the other thing there that we're not going to touch on too much now, because I'm sure we'll do a whole episode on this, is like schedule this stuff in. Like if you need to work out, schedule it in. If you need to nourish your body better, do a food like a menu plan and go food shopping. If you need to improve your relationships, schedule dinner time at the table with your children and your husband, and turn the freaking phones off and the laptops and the iPads, and have date nights and go see go see your parents or your family members. You know, I think we said this last week as well. If it's not written down, it's negotiable. Right, you're like you've just said, you'll go, oh, I'll do that in a minute. I'll do it. Yep. And then before you know it, a whole day's gone. And the thing that was most important didn't get done, and you filled your day with quite meaningless tasks that probably needed to be done, but they're not moving you in the direction of the life that you want to be creating.
Yeah, they're typically, for me, not always high priority. They're not moving me in that direction because I'll get lost in the rabbit hole of all the other crap. So I know that other people feel that way too. So
and when you've never strategized and scheduled your life, oh my God, I completely rebelled against this for at least 4 years. I'm like, I don't think anyone needs a strategy. It's far too like rigid. Right, so now
I want to live and fly by the seat of my pants.
I used to say that. And whilst I still believe in having that freedom energy, again, going and becoming the high performance coach was the thing that really made me realize that you can have it all. You can have the schedule, because in your commitment to your schedule is your freedom, because then you've got your 4-hour block. So Fridays for me are study days because I love learning, right? So I give myself 4 hours in front of my laptop on a Friday, and I do courses that I bought years ago that I've never done before, right? Or I read a book that I need to read because it's going to move me forward in some way. And I sit around and I drink coffee and water, and that's a real joy for me. So if I didn't,
I love that, lady. How did I not know that?
Because it's a new thing.
Oh, I love that. I might actually adopt that on a Friday. So it's kind of nice.
It's like life is a treat. Life is a gift. It's not a chore. So it's up to you to schedule that, to gift yourself that. An example, at the weekend, I spent probably around 8 hours this weekend over Saturday and Sunday batch cooking. I don't have to cook for the rest of the week. Like I just get something out of the freezer and I defrost it, and it's vegetarian or vegan, and that feels good, right? But if not, then my laptop has to close at a certain time so I can cook a meal from fresh. So we've talked about that. I want to move on to what we call raising the necessity. This was a brand new concept to me, and I'd read it in Brendan's high performance book. I didn't really kind of get it until I went to the coaching. I was like, oh, that totally makes sense. So it's about how can you make that more important? And I don't know about you, Mara, but I feel like sometimes what we have to see is that, oh, someone's getting cross outside. As an example, although I'm a money coach and I want to continue to increase my income through my business, money is not my primary driver. But I can raise the necessity of making more money by thinking about the impact that it will have in other areas of my life. So freedom to travel, freedom for like private healthcare, freedom for giving back to a charity or creating something to be of service, freedom to buy my Aston Martin that I want to buy. You know, all the things that the money facilitates, from like I'd love to have my teeth done, all these kinds of things. And so you raise the necessity to make money more important. And I think that a lot of us don't understand the importance of some of these things until it's too late.
So it sounds like you've raised the feeling of those things that you wanted, to raise that vibration to get what you want, which leads us back to what we've already talked about in previous episodes. And you know, I love that.
Let's just talk a little bit about, so in terms of the sacred money archetypes, Mara is like the romantic and the celebrity, right? So she loves,
and a connector. Let's not forget that connector. That's actually my number one.
But the other two love to spend, right? The romantic.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
So when we've worked together, we've talked about how do we raise the necessity for Mara to save, right? Because everybody can spend, well, unless you're an accumulator, most people can spend, but it's about raising the necessity for other things. So sometimes it's about creating a different habit, right? And about making it more important. And then when you and I were discussing this, when we were planning this series, I think we came up with a statement that kind of just summed it up, wasn't it? It was like, make the decision or live with the consequence.
Absolutely. Because it's true. So you make the decision, like you mentioned saving, you make the decision to save for that necessity or that want that you have, or you suffer the consequences. You can't have it, or maybe a bill doesn't get paid because you didn't save for it or something. I mean, there's consequences to it.
And and that for me, I think it's a challenge, because it's again, we come back to that feeling. It's easy when things are either one, you can't see them. So as an example, if we talk about, I know over there and over here, we have a huge issue with type 2 diabetes.
Okay. Yep.
Which we know leads to all kinds of inflammatory diseases, and we've got cancers and things like that, right?
Right.
But in that moment when you get told you're over here, they call it like metabolic syndrome, so you're pre-diabetic, but you can't see yet that actually in 30 years you might end up with your legs amputated, or you might go blind because your capillaries have died in your eyes, or you know, you can't see that far ahead. Right. So when we talk about raising that necessity, again, you're tapping into that feeling. Okay, so let's just imagine you in a wheelchair. How does that feel in your life, or that you can't walk your kids to school, or just imagine that maybe your heart gives out on you. And I know it sounds a bit harsh, but I think that far too many of us take our day-to-day living as a complete give me.
Okay, so I can totally understand that. It reminds me of just a few days ago. So I'm going to be 50 in a few weeks. And I just had this major aha moment driving in my car on my way home from somewhere. And I'm like, I'm going to be 50. Like, I've really, even though the last couple of years I've really taken care of my body better than I ever have, I really, really need to focus on that. Make sure, so it makes the Snickers bars less important to me, and being healthy and taking care of myself, because, you know, this last half of my life, I want to make it the best.
I love that.
You know, physically, financially, emotionally, all that other stuff. But I had that aha moment, just like, you know, thinking to myself, I could be in that wheelchair, like you just mentioned, or doing crap and feeling like shit and spend the next half of my life crappy, or I can decide to make the changes and have the necessity to do that.
And I think we're in some respects we're really blessed. I mean, and again, just talking about age, I went up to see my parents yesterday, and I sort of noticed my dad really having to push himself out of the chair, right? So my dad's 76. And like he's had bowel cancer and all that, but he's the most amazing, incredibly positive, wonderful man. And it just occurred to me, like in their day and age, they did a lot of manual labor when they was at work, so they were walking a lot and stuff like that, but they didn't necessarily know about maintaining physical health. And we are now scarily in a generation that have got no freaking concept of the long-term damage just sitting around on their asses playing stupid, aggressive, unnecessary fucking computer games that's melting their brain cells into oblivion.
Right.
But when they're 50, they'll have no freaking muscle mass. They won't be able to get in and out of a chair.
Right.
They won't have any, like, their lymphatic system will be shot to shit because the lymphatic system, the muscles push the lymphatic system and cleanse it all. Don't get me started, but you see.
Yeah, I was just going to say, how about the thumbs? Like all our thumbs from texting and playing games. Right? Like you hear about sprained thumbs these days. I'm like, really?
And the issue with the neck looking down, I think when I used to have like treatments, they were saying like it's something like half a ton or something by the way that we hang our neck forward, and that's one of my missions is like we've got to be creating something now where we try and start reversing that and be of influence to the youngsters to say, right, okay, this has got to change, and it's going to take us to do that. So when we're raising the necessity, what we're saying is like you have to, unfortunately, toughen the fuck up, really, and accept that the decision that you're doing, whether it's to eat the cheeseburger, whether it's to not look at your children when you're talking to them, whether it's to get up so late that you get you get in your car and you're rushing and you get into a car crash. Every decision and the decisions that you take day after day after day are creating your reality.
Yes, ma'am.
Be attached to the longer term consequence of the daily actions, because in the book The Slight Edge, which was a game changer for me, and have you read that book?
I have not. I have not.
We can't be friends no more. You will love the book. You will love the book. It's written.
The Slight Edge. Who's it by?
I think it's by Jeff Olson. Very, very well written book. Very easy to read, and it's Jeff with a J. And he just puts this message together so well. And basically, the theory is it's the seemingly inconsequential daily acts that make us great.
Okay, I will get that book and I will read it and I will report back.
It's fabulous. So in summation, as I think we've been talking for like getting on for like maybe half an hour or so.
Yeah, we get carried away.
I know. So you sum up. What have you just kind of like heard from what we talked about today? So if for all of you, we're talking to you where you feel like quitting. We've talked to you about, maybe you needed a plan. Maybe it wasn't just about decision. You need a plan to execute the decision. And what else from you, Mara?
So when you're ready to throw in the towel, you have a decision to make. Well, first of all, go ahead and have your good cry, have your good pity party, have your moment, and then pick yourself up and move forward. Make a plan and move forward.
Yeah. And again, the decision or the consequence,
right.
Plan, get an accountability partner, and make it like, so you can kind of tell by now, I'm sure, that I kind of throw myself in head first into everything that I do. But I understand that if this is a new journey for you, sometimes it has to feel really manageable. So just like we said with if you can't cut the Snickers bars out, cut them in half.
Yes, baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. Do one little step at a time. That's the other thing. Real quick, let me mention, like, a lot of times I think people try to bite off more than they can chew, or they try to do too much, or their goals are just too big. Give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
And start with small goals, whether you want to lose weight. So let's lose a half a pound a week for the first, couple of months. Oh my gosh, look at how awesome I'm doing. What can I do to do a little bit better? Or maybe just cut out carbs, which is what I'm currently starting to do again. Just cut out carbs. Start there. Like all those little tiny chunks will will grow into bigger changes. So
and the movement creates momentum because you see yourself moving forward. I will just share quickly that what I've had in the last kind of 2 or 3 weeks in my mastermind group is that women that have been with me now for knocking the door of some of them 6 months, some of them a little bit longer than that. And they're like, oh my God, like I'm seeing that I'm dealing with this in a completely different way. I'm having really challenging and difficult conversations with my husband, but we're on the same page for now. I want to be more of an influence to my child, so I need to watch how I show up in front of my child. And they realized that they were pursuing their business to fulfill a need, but that wasn't what was making them really happy, and they had to create the happiness first, and then all those other things would come into play. And I think we're in this thing that, just going back to the 6 figures thing, I think we're in a dangerous place as business women where it's all about like, get your 6 figures, get, you know, how quickly can you go from 0 to whatever. And it pains me because most people, not everybody, but a lot of people that are buying that mentality aren't in the space to do that yet, because they haven't developed the courage in themselves to be who they need to be, to do the things that they need to do, to have the things they want to have. There's a huge amount of courage that you need to develop around that.
Amen. You said it. That's a mouthful right there.
I know, but that's my motto. And I had to go through the shit to find out that was true. Right? I did chase the money. My only success indicator was how much money I was earning in my first business and how many clients I had. But I didn't feel successful. I was exhausted. I was drinking too much. I was depressed. I wasn't speaking to my family. I was really, really reactive. And I had to have that sort of breakdown to go, what is going on here? Right? I'm not a happy person. I was happier earning like 6 times less a month in a shitty office job because I wasn't making it about me and what it meant, what this all meant for me. So this is why I said to you, you know, my big thing is developing the mindset of a successful person. Then it's easier to create a successful life and successful business because you know where you're at.
Absolutely.
But it takes courage because there are so many ways that can be challenging for you.
So what kind of Red Shoe Lounge action step did we have for our
action today? Right, so this week we're talking, I would like you to really have a look at goals that you have set in the past, and I don't like the word failed, but I'm going to use it just to put it out there. So goals that you've set for yourself that you didn't achieve, you failed at, right? And I want you to write a list of them, and I want you to write really honestly, like, why did that happen? Which one of the things that we've discussed today could you start to use for you to set that goal again, maybe from now? Like, forget the 1st of Jan, it's bollocks anyway, right? Yeah. Don't wait for a new moon or a full moon or a fucking Halley's Comet. Just decide tomorrow is the day, although I have to say statistically Monday's a better day to start anything.
I don't like New Year's resolutions to begin with. I did not mention that earlier, but I don't like them for this very reason.
Yeah.
Start when you want to start. Don't wait.
Yeah. And also, if you do decide to start on Monday, don't eat everything in the house now and then, right?
Or don't piss everybody off before you decide to be kind.
Don't try and be a complete cow for the rest of the week just so you can get it all out, because it kind of doesn't work like that. So be honest with what is it that hasn't happened for you, that you haven't, maybe you didn't have the courage, maybe you didn't have the commitment, maybe you didn't have a plan. And out of the things that we've talked about today, which one or two of those things could you start to implement that would help you? So maybe you need a much more specific plan. Maybe you need to schedule more. Maybe you need an accountability partner. Maybe you need a conversation with your husband or partner to say, look, I need some support here. I can't do all this anymore. Like, could we have a discussion? Because the courage to have a conversation is massive. So your Red Shoe action is to then say, okay, if I was going to make one of these necessary, if I was going to start creating a new me from Monday, whenever, and I made it really necessary, what's my action, what's moving forward? So that's your Red Shoe action for today, is getting clear on why you failed in the first place and deciding which of the things that we've talked about today will help you move forward. And if you want to share what you've decided, or you want to share what's come up, As always, hashtag it Red Shoe Action, and we'll come find you on social media. So until next week, Mara.
Ah, remember, your life is your choice.
You got it.